when I am asking her to stop and back, where does her head go? So as we're walking forward, she's nice and got a nice low headset. She keeps touching my hand, which is fine. She's not trying to nip me or anything. So when she stopped there, she raised her head ever so slightly. When she backs, she raises her head more. That is tension. Whether it's mental, physical, whatever, it's tension. So as we go, I would really like to see her start stopping with the same headset and start taking those steps back. So what I'm going to start introducing, yeah, I don't have any cookies. What I'm going to start introducing is just asking her real lightly. There's not a lot of pressure on this rope. I'm just going to start asking her to put her head down. There you go. And every time she just has a softening, I'm going to let go. Even if she puts her head up and then puts it back down a little bit, just any time it's down, goes downward, I'm going to let go. And then I'll move her forward a little bit, let her have a release, and then ask again. Good. And this is just real light. I'm not pulling on her. It's just contact. Good. Good. The harder that you are on the horse, the more you pull on them, the more they're going to start pulling back. So when you're softening, asking them to soften, you have to start with just being soft yourself and pick up a little contact, but it's not pulling, it's just contact. Good. And I did start this a little bit the other day with her. Yesterday, actually. Good. Good. So she's starting to understand the concept a little bit better. Good. Very nice. So then we're going to walk forward again. And we're going to walk around. And then we're going to stop. And this time, when I ask her to back up, I'm just first going to ask her to bring her head down slightly. And she's licking me, and that's okay. Like, I don't really care. I'm just going to wait for her to soften. You can see I'm kind of facing her now, so that's going to create more energy directed towards her. So she might get a little bit more tense, which is fine. I'm not going to pull any harder on the rope. I'm just going to keep everything else the same. Good. Just ask her to bring her head down. Good. And again, we're not looking for perfect, we're looking for better. Very nice. Now that she's got her head down, I'm going to ask her. Good. And she put her head up, and that's okay. We're not looking for perfect. We're starting to introduce a concept. It's going to be messy first. The goal is for her to be able to stop and back without having a higher headset. So when she stops, she puts it up automatically. I'm just going to ask her to reach down. Good. Good. Nope, that's okay. If she braces in her body and throws her head back up, I just go right back to asking her to put her head down. And I don't know if you can see based off where the camera is, but her posture is really funky. She's got that hind left leg parked out really far. There's barely any weight on the hind right, and she's pushing backwards on her front feet. And her toes are kind of long. They really need to be trimmed up, which might be part of the reason she holds herself the way she does, but it aids bad posture, let's put it that way. But she's got a lot of physical tension in her body too, as well as a lot of mental concern. Good girl. And again, I'm not pulling on her. I'm just creating some contact and some energy. Good. Now, it's okay. It's okay. Put your head down. Good. And it won't be perfect. Good. Good. That's okay. And this matters because this is bracing. Whether it's mental bracing, physical bracing, both. When a horse is doing this, this is bracing. And that transfers to the next step that you do. So at the next step were for me to go saddle her, she might be fine. Well, she might be deal with me putting the saddle on. But somewhere along the line, that tension is going to come out. It might come out with the saddling. I might go to put a saddle on her, and she explodes and takes off bucking. Or she might not do that, and she might just stay frozen and really tense. And then I go and get on her, and she might stand still when I get on her, and she might be frozen and tense when I go to get on her. And then I go to ask her to walk off, and that might be where she explodes. Good. But it's going to come out somewhere. And like with Annie, I don't necessarily make everything perfect before I start introducing something different. She's not going to be perfect at carrying herself correctly and softening before I go to the next step of groundwork. But I really want this to be good before I sit on her. Good. She needs to understand this concept before I go on to something else. But it doesn't have to be perfect. But she will carry that tension over into the next thing. So I'm not going to put myself in a precarious position, like climbing on them, until this tension has gone away. Good. And you can see when I reach for her, she puts her head up. Oh, yeah. Are you itchy there? Good. Good, you find an itchy spot. Good. So I want her to start unlocking. Good. And being able to move her body without bracing. And some horses you need to start here because they're so unsure of what you might be asking of them, and you have to build up a rapport. But it's not going to be too difficult, that you're not going to stress them out. Good girl. That they'll be able to understand and relax. Good. Good. Can you put your head down? And then as they start relaxing, you start introducing new topics. Good. So in the first lesson, I had gone through all of this stuff with Annie. And so we were able to do a lot more stuff with Annie, and Annie's sticky spot was the actual saddle. With Dusty, Dusty is not ready for tack. Dusty's not ready for a lot of the stuff that Annie is. And Annie's been here longer. Good girl. Oh, good girl. So this is stuff that we had gone through with Annie before we got to the tacking. Good. Good. So encourage her head to come down. It's not going to be perfect. And I want to see if we can get a step back without her throwing her head up. And you might notice when I start asking her to take that step back, one of the things that I do is kind of put my hand right here on her chest. And it's making her put her head up whenever I touch her right now. Good girl. But she'll get used to that and get used to my touch and not be so fearful of it. Good. But instead of pulling on her to back her up, I want to ask her to step back with my hand because I don't want to create any more tension and racing in her head and neck and body by pulling on the rope. I want her to learn how to be softening and being responsive to that. So if I put a little contact and just bring the rope back slightly and she doesn't take that step back, then I'll just use my hand here to help her. So I'm not creating more tension in her body by getting into a tug of war.